Leave meeting. All right, got it.
I'm out.
All right, welcome back. Looking forward to it, guys. Different episode. Not even sure which one it is, but it's a different one. The concept of Mount Rushmore. And Seamus, you defined it pretty well. So if you want to explain it a bit, I'll pull up my my sheet here. Oh God, Jack, you too.
I didn't do anything. That's you.
No. Black it out.
We're starting with guitarist.
God damn it. Now we gotta send another link.
Inki just blurred out.
I also might change that, so I don't know. I think it's because I clicked on it. I just did it again.
So it was you.
I guess it was me.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, it's empty now. Yeah, if I highlight into the cell, it'll show it. That's so stupid.
I don't know why you wrote it all down initially anyway, but
what a shitty company.
Yeah, terrible planning. Oh my goodness.
Anyways, sorry.
So it's probably like episode 10 or 11. But yeah, today's concept is a Mount Rushmore of music. I think we decided to keep it within rock. I'm interested to see if we branch out from classic rock or not. I think to go outside of that genre, which is a wide genre, but like I think to go outside of that, it just gets to like the criteria to compare becomes so difficult. So just staying within rock, the concept is basically if any one of us were commissioned to make a Mount Rushmore for music, who are the four that we're putting on there? I think we finally kind of came to the conclusion that we would do it based on the classic like band structure. So vocalist, guitarist, bassist, drummer. And then we have kind of like an X Factor fifth choice. What was this in reference to? Like the actual
Crazy Horse.
We called it
Crazy Horse.
Crazy Horse, which is like what, like in the same area-ish as
Mount
Rushmore?
It's like another mountain that's carved into like a Native American leader. That's like 10 minutes away from actual Mount Rushmore. Gotcha. Just a little history for you guys, in case you're curious, you know.
Thanks, Nigel.
You guys are big history buffs.
Thanks, Nigel.
Yeah, that's actually our transition into making this a history podcast. It's
so the 100 years
we're pivoting.
Yeah, surprise, everyone.
Yeah, this was actually just an introduction.
So the last thing I was going to say about the premise is that, like, and I think everybody should explain their interpretation of how they're choosing, just because I think we may have different kind of criteria. For me, I was trying to keep it like the most prolific musicians in each of these categories, but I personally am not just containing it to their abilities within that category, which is not. I think that's why I was so hesitant to say that we do it by instrument, is because this is very, very like, if you're playing Guitar Hero, you've got one guy who's on the guitar, another guy who's singing, but like in real music, like, you might be singing and playing guitar, and that's your band because you're a three-piece. You know what I mean? So there's room for interpretation here. But before we get into anyone's picks, I just want to hear about Nigel's night, because I was expecting, he was hyping this episode up more than anyone, and I was expecting to see him in his studio all ready to go, professional setup. This guy was talking about music clips to show the audience. Meanwhile, he's in an airport lounge.
Dude, I'm not even in a lounge. I'm fucking bumming it. I'm bumming it. And
what happened? You have a flight, or did you just go to the airport?
Yeah, I'm just here visiting.
Dude, I missed my flight. So my flight was at like 6 a.m. or something, and I woke up at like 6:45, just absolutely still hammered, and it was awful because so I set an alarm, but I set the alarm and like Apple's default thing was set to like all weekdays, and it's Sunday. So it just didn't go off. So I was pretty disappointed. I woke up, have pretty that's the airport, by the way. We're having a great time over here. But I have like no recollection of last night. I had some like Korean barbecue. had a had a whole lot of drinks, and then woke up and the floor was covered in throw up.
Oh no.
Oh my
Oh
God.
no.
I went out with some friends in Baltimore because I like came back to check on the property, and ended up throwing up on my own floor.
Dude, you shouldn't have went. You should not have gone.
No, I definitely
Blame it on the
definitely,
tenants.
yeah, no, I just took it out of the security deposit.
Yeah, you guys
for,
got a
man.
throw up stain on the carpet. That's gonna be an extra $100 though.
Yeah, $1,000 here, $1,000 there.
Yoink.
No biggie. Yeah, but went to Admiral's Cup, which some of you have been there with me. Randomly saw this girl that I dated at the time when I lived
I was
there.
waiting for that one.
Yeah. So eventually we go back to my house, and I have pretty much no recollection, but I remember her throwing up.
Oh my God,
And
dude.
she threw up in my bathroom, and then hearing her throw up made me so sick. Then I started throwing up.
It's like the Family Guy.
Chain reaction.
It's the Family Guy clamshell.
Exactly like
Yeah.
that, dude.
Oh yeah,
And
the
she's,
epic
I mean,
hack. Oh god.
she's in the bathroom, so I'm like, well, I got nowhere to go. So I'm just like, I'll just pick a corner. And in my drunk
Dude,
mind, I was
you
like,
have
this is a
two
good corner. I know,
You
I
have
do.
2 bathrooms.
This corner looks good. No one ever goes in this corner.
Dude,
I can use this
my
one.
drunk mind was just like, yeah, this is a great idea. I'll just do it over here. It'll be like, it won't even be a mess. Yeah, that was disgusting. And then I also went out with 2 friends who were supposed to crash there. No idea what happened to them. Like they disappeared, woke up, they weren't there, woke up, the girl wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I woke up with my pants like half on. No one else is in the house. The rope on the floor. It was great.
And you missed your flight.
And I missed my flight. Called an Uber, missed the Uber because I was cleaning up throw up.
Oh
Had to call another Uber, get to the airport. And they're like, no, we can't get you another flight. You're gonna have to buy one. So I bought another flight.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah,
can't they get
like-
you another? Like, how does that work?
I mean, it was Spirit Airlines, so it's just garbage.
Oh,
It's just
God.
absolute trash.
There you go.
Fucking Spirit.
I mean, I'm sorry. It was Anonymous Airlines. Bleep that out, Inki. We might get a sponsorship. You never know.
Yo, we were banking on that Spirit sponsorship. We were so close.
Yeah, dude, it was a rough night, and I haven't eaten at all. And I had some banana chips in the lounge, but not quite feeling great. But I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll indeed.
The show must go on.
Shall.
Thanks, Nigel.
Shall and it must.
Yep. Hey, I'm
Story
here
time
for
takes,
the-
Nige.
over.
Spirit Airlines, if you're ever looking for a family-friendly music podcast to support,
Family friendly.
we're here.
Well, we've been
Not even
anything but-
family friendly.
I don't know if that would be the words to describe us.
Just friendly.
Just friendly.
Yeah, just friendly guys.
Friendly.
If you like some music lovers or just friendly guys, love to have a good drink. I don't drink like ever, so
Right.
it was
Yeah,
I did
I
not
was just
pace
goofing.
myself.
It was all joke.
You don't normally get that hungover either, do you?
No, this was bad. This was pretty bad,
You were setting yourself up for failure because even if I'm thinking about you making your flight.
dude.
I
Yeah,
can't imagine
I know.
any scenario than being on the plane that hungover.
Oh,
Dude,
Oh,
'cause
goodness.
I definitely got back like 2 a.m. I would have had to leave by like 4:30, or at least call the
Oh,
Uber by
man.
4:30.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I would have been driving home around 8 something, and I was still hammered at like 10 o'clock. Like there was no way that was gonna work. So I'll just take it
Yeah,
as a
I
blessing
mean-
in disguise.
Yeah.
Listen, we've
I'm not
all
gonna learn
made
a lesson.
mistakes. I do have to question the fact that, I mean, I know you wanted to go out because you're in Baltimore, but like, how did you end up with a 6:30 a.m. flight? Like, that was never.
I
It
was
was just
just
never
like-
gonna work out, man.
Dude,
A
in
little
my
optimistic.
sober mind, I was just like, oh yeah, I'll get back in time to get back to the studio, be able to record the video, have a productive day. No. Woke up, cleaned up some vomit off my floor, missed an Uber. It was
God,
amazing.
brutal.
Striking
Yep.
out everywhere, dude.
Yeah. So if you set an
That
alarm,
weird
make sure it's actually set for the next day. Yep.
No, that was not on Apple. That was on you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
I can push the blame anywhere, but it was definitely me being an idiot.
Cool.
So let's go.
Yeah.
Rock and roll, baby.
Dude,
So, you wanna just go? If we're gonna go by category, I feel like,
Guitar has to
guitar
be
and
last.
vocal. Yeah, guitar has to be last. I feel like vocals should maybe be third to last. You want to start on drums or bass?
Let's start with
Bass. We
start
could
with
probably talk
drums
about for like
or
a minute
bass.
and then move on.
Yo, have some respect.
Let's
All right. Let's. What do you got, Nigel? What do you got?
I was gonna say let's start with bass.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say because Dan seems to be offended by my little jab at
You gotta
bass.
respect the basis, bro.
Well,
Coming from
all right, Dan.
Seamus, of
All right,
course.
Dan. Who you got?
On the basis. What else is new?
That guy who played for that band, he
Oh
was
yeah.
really good.
I don't want to start any of these categories just because my name is first. I don't want to start any of them. Someone else.
Well, we already know all of your choices, so
no, I think it's just me that knows him, and I forget
Inki.
now anyway.
it's just the Chili Peppers roster.
Yeah.
Nice. Amazing.
I want Dan to go first with his basis if he's cool with it.
Oh, sure. I'll go first.
Hit it.
So
What do you
yeah,
got?
I feel like when I was thinking of my Mount Rushmore, it wasn't necessarily based on like the cream of the crop,
Based.
you know. Like Seamus said, he was thinking like kind of leaning more towards like prolific artists or like more household names, someone you would expect, you know. So you could say for bass, it's like, oh, someone's gonna say John Paul Jones. But I picked Les Claypool. If you guys know Primus at all,
I
you know
sure do.
Les.
The name's
Yeah.
really familiar.
Very nice.
Les.
Is that right?
Les.
I don't know.
It is cool with a Z, but
It's not.
yeah, it's an S instead of
Okay,
a Z.
my bad. I
Les
just
Claypool. Yeah, so Les, I don't know if you guys know Primus much at all, but he's probably one of the most. It has like one of the most interesting styles of playing. Like he does a lot of slapping with his thumb, as well as like flamenco strumming out with his fingers like this.
Mm-hmm.
Which he gets like a really interesting sound. He also has some of the like most interesting basses I've ever seen, like 5 strings, 6 strings.
A lot of frets too, right?
Yeah,
It's a long
he's
neck.
got a big bass, very long. I don't even know. It might be like 28 frets or some shit. But
Really? That's
no, that's
crazy.
the way. That's
It's-
exaggerated.
yeah, It might be like
I
22 or something. I forget, I don't know.
24 is kind of the standard longer bass. I would
That's
say.
probably what it is then.
yeah, I would expect something like that. But yeah, I did find a bunch of clips, but I can just say the songs so people can check them out because it's like kind of just a demonstration of his ability. But I think if anyone played Guitar Hero, you might know the song John the Fisherman by Primus, which is like a song that got them big. They're kind of a very weird band, but they kind of got like a cult following. It started in like California in the late 1980s. But I guess I can just sum up. I picked Les Claypool because he's definitely one of the most unique bassists out there. He's also a very unique person. Like listening to any Primus song, the lyrics are nonsensical. It kind of has like a gnashing guitar sound, you know, heavy drums, but they're extremely talented. And like Les, I gotta give it to him. He's no Victor
sure.
Wooten, you know, but one of the best.
Dude, Victor Wooten is like spoiler, that's not who I picked. But if I was going purely like if we were just going for the instruments and like their abilities and we were just going to pick virtuosos, like he probably would be the pick for bass.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I know a couple Primus songs, but fun little fact, Inki, Jack, do you know any Primus songs?
Yeah, I never really listened to them, but
do not.
they sound really cool. And I saved the song that Dan said.
So Tommy the Cat. That's another good Primus song
Cat,
to check
okay.
out.
Johnny was a race car driver. But what I was
Yeah.
getting at is that they're the ones who do the South Park theme song.
Yeah, I
Exactly,
saw that. That's awesome.
Oh,
And going down south, I'll go to meet some friends of mine.
And it's kind of representative of their sound.
Yeah, he's
That's
just so
awesome.
like whimsical, dude.
That's funny.
He dresses in like Civil War outfits for like all their live tours in like the 90s. He's just a strange dude.
What?
Yeah,
Very
like look,
interesting.
they're very good live. Like I pulled up some live clips, but yeah, he's a funky guy.
I think we're gonna put together a playlist
Okay.
for this
Yeah.
episode too, so
Yeah.
that you can go
I
check
love
the
that.
songs pretty easily.
I'm down for
That we-
that.
we
And
mentioned.
once we get this up on YouTube, I want to share like probably every one of these on Instagram, like every one of these nominees with a clip. And I can
Mhm.
refer to you guys for the clip,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
can cut it up and post it. But Les Claypool's on the board. Who wants to go next?
I mean, I'll go. So for bass, my choice was so I had it split between Marcus Miller and Chuck Rainey, and I think for me it's gonna be Chuck Rainey. So he's the bassist who does a lot of sessioning with Steely Dan, like Aretha Franklin, George Benson. So like and not all that's rock, right? So that's kind of why I was like caught in between who I was gonna choose. But like dude, he just has so many great grooves. He played most of the songs on Asia, if not all of them. And he's just got such like a groovy style, like the way he uses like pauses and syncopation, and it's just super good. I mean, you guys heard the artist that I listed off. I mean, Inki's a huge Steely Dan fan, so we're all fans of music that Chuck Rainey has played, whether it's a live version or a studio album. But you know, bass isn't quite as popular, I guess, of an instrument to know. So you probably like a lot of songs that he's played, but might not be familiar with him. But yeah, he's definitely my go-to, my number one.
If you were gonna put like 2 songs on a playlist with him to really highlight his skill, what would they be?
Asia, the album.
So I mean,
The whole
Peg
album.
is a great
Yeah,
song.
that's
Kid,
good with
I would
me.
say
That's
Kid
impressive to
Charlemagne.
learn. That's cool.
Kid Charlemagne is an amazing song, so I'll just go with that.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that song.
I would put. I mean, Asia is the S album. I think if there's a category higher than S, that's where
Yes.
Asia would be in my mind.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Into the Outdoor, we're gonna do it again right now.
Nice,
And
we
there
brought
it is
up.
again.
We brought it
Every
up.
episode.
Got it in. All right, good. We can move on now.
All right. Just had to make sure it was covered.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Unfortunately my audio cut out there, but that's a good choice. Steely Dan are awesome. Kind of a cheeky pick on your part. Bass, I probably could have spent more time on. And I'm blanking on his name. One that I probably should have given more attention to was the Who's bassist. Inky, help me out there. Nigel, Jack, Dan, somebody.
And whistle.
John
Who?
Entwistle, yeah.
Who?
Yeah,
He's insane.
Yeah, he's a beast. I probably should have given him more time. But again, like my interpretation was not just their ability on their instrument, but also just their role within the band. And maybe within anything else they've done in their career. So again, I didn't spend a ton of time on bass. I made it pretty clear that I probably could have put together Mount Rushmore that didn't have a bassist. But one of my favorite bassists who adds a lot to everything that I listen to by them is Sting. And he's got a lot of great grooves. Walking on the Moon and Voices Inside My Head are probably two of my favorite like bass lines. And he also was heavily involved in writing their songs, and obviously had a lot of singles that hit the airwaves and got a lot of radio time. Not that any of us really care too much about that, but yeah, I'd go Sting. Honorable mention to Geddy Lee. I was pretty
Sure.
tempted to put him on. If you saw that Instagram clip I posted of them playing Tom Sawyer live,
That's-
all three of them were just fucking crushing it, and
Dude, it's
I love all
crazy.
three of them.
Yeah,
But
you
like I
saw
said,
all-
Sting had such a big role in writing their songs too. So I went with him.
Nice.
That's a great choice. He's Sting is one of the like most sampled like rock
Really?
artists in hip hop. Uh, he has a song called, I think it's called like "Shape of Your Heart" or something like that.
Yeah, that was like off his first album solo, I think.
Yeah, so I mean he's
Sorry.
playing guitar in that song, but the guitar riff in that song is sampled on like a ton of stuff. Nas samples it in, forget which song it is. Juice World, if you like Juice World, samples it in
He's actually on my list.
Dreams or something. Lucid Dreams.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. He's a rock and roll hero, man.
More on that later.
Rip.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great
Forgot about
choice.
that song. Shape of My Heart. That's a good one. That might be playlist worthy right there.
Jack,
Even though
Jack,
he's
who do
playing
you got?
guitar.
This
I
cat,
think
man. Sorry, Seamus, before I go, you said Walking on the Moon, Walking on the Moon. What was the other song? You said
Voices Inside My Head.
okay. I'm just building the playlist as we go.
Love that. Yeah.
Just so we don't forget.
Awesome.
Doing I think in 2 songs for every position, something like that. I can go. Mine's pretty obvious. For those who know Flea from Red Chili Peppers, he's just like
Took
I
me by
think
surprise.
such a you can change the yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean he's just like such a legend and so
Yeah.
like respected by people in like every genre, and he's so cool, and just like his performances live, or he's just literally just jumping around the stage, and he's like 60 years old, and he's been doing this for 40 years, and he's not
super
slowing
influential
down
too.
anytime soon. Like he's just going and going, and yeah, it's just like there's not many bands that have a bassist that is such like a front runner of a band, but he is just such an integral part of the band, and like without him the Chili Peppers wouldn't be like who they are. Like he couldn't leave and they'd still be a structure, in my opinion.
Pretty sure like all the new generations of bassists have been influenced by Flea in
Absolutely.
some way, you know?
And like if you listen, I don't know off the top of my head, but like he lists his influences all the time, and like it's all just like a lot of rooted in just like a lot of jazz and a lot of funk, and you can really hear the funk in everything he plays. And like the sound of the Chili Peppers has changed a lot over the decades, but his bass has kind of just been like a continuum through all their albums. Like it's the same sound and everything, and it's awesome. I love it. He slaps so hard, and
Literally.
Slapping the
And-
bass.
I think like 2 songs that really highlight are some of the earlier stuff. One being Stone Cold Bush, and the other being True Men Don't Kill Coyotes, which True Men Don't Kill Coyotes was their first ever studio recorded song on their first album. And so you could just tell like he just came out guns blazing, and he's been like that good forever. So 2 songs to check out. Of the newer stuff that more people might recognize, like Get Up and Jump, Humpty Bump from Stadium Arcadium. That's just also like really like a leader in that song. But yeah, he rocks. I love him.
Also, I feel
Awesome.
like the album on that's a great breakdown, and those are 2 deep tracks that you picked. I feel like not that I'm the I have the best knowledge of them, but
They're
I know
definitely
Blood
deep
Sugar
tracks.
Sex Magic really well.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
like I feel like Suck My Kiss and Give It Away are 2 other ones that he
Yeah, he rocks on
goes
Give
off
It
Yeah.
Away.
I would say Can't Stop is heavily revolves around the bass too.
Yeah.
Also an
I
awesome
mean,
track.
they you could pick a lot of songs from them because he's like
Yeah.
he's a leader in the band, and it's such a
Mhm.
part of their sound.
Yeah,
Awesome
agreed.
choice.
Nice.
High standards,
Inky.
Inky. What you got?
Yeah, just me left. So I was saying earlier that I was doing some speculation on Seamus's pick. I think we might be seeing little more Police later, so I'll throw that out there. And then I was just gonna say, let me know if I'm misspelling anything here, and correct me if I'm wrong. I wasn't sure about the Chuck Rainey. Stop it. But for me, with these picks, they're definitely not the best, or I don't have any reasoning to support that claim, or the musical know-how to support that claim. And but this one actually is like kind of contradicts that. I think this is the definitive kind of best bass player. Seamus brought it up earlier, but
I had a feeling.
yeah, in terms of playing, it was kind of easy. He pretty much invented lead bass.
Yeah.
And beside the playing, I love his whole demeanor on stage. So obviously a member of the Who, and the rest of them are all wild. You know, Pete has his splits, his windmill guitar thing. Keith Moon is Keith Moon. Roger, he's like swinging his microphone around, kind of dancing on stage. This man he's as still as a statue.
Stone cold killer.
And just all of the power exuding from the bass. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, like checking out like an isolated like bass track for like Bob O'Reilly.
That's
it's really sick.
Bring
dude.
up
Like, when
yeah.
you get the sound he gets out of the bass, like you said, he invented lead bass, man. Very
So
influential guy too.
Bob O'Reilly, yeah, that's definitely one I'd point to. Won't Get Fooled Again.
Are
There's
those two?
I think those would be two good ones. And another one that comes to mind, less popular, would probably be Bargain on Who's Next.
You don't want to put Boris the
No, I was
Boris
gonna
the
say
yeah. Yeah.
That's all
That
you
was actually-
he wrote that song, man. Sick. I'd definitely put that on there.
Dude, we know music better than anyone else. And I'm saying that after the bass category, dude. Good stuff, everyone. Good stuff.
Awesome.
Snaps.
we hit the 10-minute mark, so
Snaps.
might do like one or two picks from someone, and then we'll move on to a
I'm
Okay.
fine with that.
Okay.
You want to
Sounds
do
good.
drums next?
The greatest instrument? Is that what you just
Good.
asked?
Nigel, you lead off.
Awesome. I'm happy to lead the way. All right, drums. Let's see what I got here. So drums were pretty difficult because that's like my main instrument. So I have a lot of different inspirations from different like genres and stuff like that. But as far as rock drumming goes, so it came down to 3 people. I think I'm just going to do runners up every time I go through this because
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
you know,
got some
Fair
just to
enough.
give so runners up for me are, to start off, Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl's an amazing drummer.
Nice.
I would say he's like I mean, I'm kind of going to spoil something, but he's like the John Bonham of the following rock generation, in my opinion. Like he's so integral to any band he's been a part of, whether it's Nirvana or Queens of the Stone Age or the Foo Fighters. He's known for being like one of the most like having almost like perfect rhythm, which is insane. Because like if you listen to a song, so one of the Queens of the Stone Age albums is called Songs for the Deaf, I think, and the drums on the album are insane. It's literally a bunch of just like super talented musicians got together and wrote some music. But the drums are just crazy. They let Dave Grohl just go off over and over again with all these fills and solos, and they kind of lead some of the tracks. Like it's like the other instruments are in there, but you're listening to it for the drums. And to be able to sit in a band like Nirvana, for example, and not be like outshined by Kurt Cobain is a pretty impressive thing, especially when you're not the guitarist, like you're the drummer, which is already a kind of a background role, is pretty impressive. My next runner up is for me is John Bonham, because just insane, crazy drumming. I mean, everyone knows who John Bonham is. Really like revolutionary style, the way he implemented or infused like jazz into rock and roll. Because it was kind of being done before and rock has its roots in jazz and blues and stuff, but the way that he implemented it and all the double kicks, like it just, I mean, it set the groundwork for so much good rock and roll from that point on. Welcome back to the airport, by the way. And but number one has to be for me Neil Peart. Like
Nice.
just a legend.
Yeah,
like
there it is.
I mean, you see like as Seamus posted on the Instagram, like these videos of him playing, and he's just going crazy. He's got like 100 drums around him. He's hitting them all perfectly, and it's like there's, you know, drumming is kind of simple, but it's also hard, like extremely hard to do. And the way that he's hitting all the drums in the perfect way. He's not just hitting them. He's hitting them in perfect time. He's hitting, and he writes it all too. Which it's one thing to just sit down and like play the drums, but like when you write out a drum part that so perfectly matches a song like Tom Sawyer or something like that, which is pretty complex. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the drums are not just, you know, like four on the floor, just a simple pattern. Because you could do that for a song and it'll still be all right, but when you write the drum part to just match the intensity and or when it slows down, it's just I mean it just matches the rest of the song. And Neil Peart is like the legend as far as that goes, especially since he was so involved in other parts of the songwriting. I think he takes the holy grail as far as drumming goes.
Nice. Do you have any specific songs you have up top of your mind?
I mean,
Literally every
I'll just say
Rush song.
Tom Sawyer. like yeah, I mean he goes off in pretty much all their songs. So
Yeah,
I'll just say Tom Sawyer because that's
I'm trying
amazing.
to think of another one. The other one that I thought about posting on the Instagram is called La Via Strangado. Have fun spelling that. It's just it's
I got it.
I think it's LA's. Yeah. I probably mispronounced it. I guess is my point. But that again, there's a million. I think that's one of the good ones for him. I'm not sure.
Limelight's good.
That whole album is great.
Fly By Night is good.
Oh yeah, I love that song.
Dude, you're getting me so jazzed up right now.
Nice.
I just saw some.
Saw some what?
I said I just saw some nudes.
Okay.
Oh, you can look at those. Just don't look at his pics, man. They'll
Yeah, I
split
prefer
the
you guys
pics.
get a hold of those than when I got
Damn, you must have a wrench then.
negative.
I don't care if you see those. So Inki, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I can slide in. I didn't spend too much time on drums. And now that I think about it, what I said earlier of like not the conventional best, just my favorite, I've contradicted that with my first two picks. This is kind of like another definitive, easier answer. And I don't even like the Who that much, but I'm going with Keith. And I think I might have mentioned that briefly last week, but I mean, similar to Entwistle, I think just invented lead drums. And, you know, really can't get too technical here because I don't know anything about drumming, but I appreciate that he wasn't conventionally good, you know, just loud as shit, hit everything in sight. And maybe similar to Entwistle too. Only Bonham in my mind comes close in matching that power and energy. My runner-ups are actually more interesting. I like Levon a lot. I think he's a great voice too.
Fair.
Yeah, he's talented. And then Charlie Watts, such a nice.
Oh yeah, there you
band.
go.
Dude, he's a good drummer.
He's insane.
Yeah,
just an awesome drummer, awesome band, obviously. Favorite
I was
song?
wondering if I was just gonna say I was wondering if
Yeah,
anyone from the Stones was gonna get a look on here. I feel like Charlie Watts is just generally very underrated.
They're coming.
Yeah.
Seamus. But they're underrated. I'm Charlie Watson. I agree. Favorite songs? Maybe anything live. I honestly don't have. Again, can't speak like too much to the technical ability. I mentioned Bargain with Entwistle. I think Keith Moon has a good drum part in that as well. They kind of go back and forth midway through the song. It's like a little like bass solo, drum solo in my mind, which is pretty interesting and, you know, different than the standard guitar solo. I think that was everything I had for Keith. Again, my picks get more interesting later on, I swear.
I mean, they're
Sounds
solid
good.
picks.
Yeah.
Definitely a little heavy on
Who?
The Who?
Yeah,
so
which is weird.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
So was I.
they're good musicians though. They're good musicians.
Yeah.
But I was gonna jump in after Nige because you guys probably could have guessed this. Probably one of at least two that you could have guessed on my
Yeah.
list. Neil Peart.
Oh, no. Oh, that
I guess he couldn't guess it. I tried not to
that was my guess.
to double down on the same band, although I did kind of allude to like so as far as Rush goes, dude, like especially for musicianship purposes, obviously they're their own weird thing, but like Alex Lifeson is one of my favorite guitarists. And Geddy Lee is an unbelievable bassist. But there are other guys in those categories that I figured I could give equal credit to. Neil Peart is definitely just my favorite. I think he's so incredibly interesting and almost unique. I'm not as versed in drumming to make that claim, but like to incorporate the amount of like pieces that he has in his kit in like, I'm not going to call it conventional, but in rock music, in classic rock, even prog rock, whatever umbrella they fall under, he just does it so well, and everything he does really fits the song. And I think they talk about that in their documentary too, if I'm thinking of the right excerpt. I think they were saying like, yeah, they did a lot of experimental type shit and way over the top and changing time signatures mid-song and stuff like that. But they tried to have every piece of musical technique that they incorporated to service the song, not just like because we can, which is awesome because I think everything that they have some weird shit, but
that's what Chicago
they have
did.
a lot of,
it was garbage.
I knew you were going to go there with that. But I think that is I think it was Rush in that Beyond the Lighted Stage documentary. I think Xanadu is maybe a better example actually than La Via Strangado of, because that he uses a lot of the like chimes and stuff like that. And just to give my honorable mentions on that, Keith Moon was one of them. John Bonham was one of them. Tough not to pick Bonham, really. Dude, another one, Hendrix's drummer, Mitch Mitchell, fucking beast. Like, just listen to Fire.
Yeah.
Like, that's so good. And
he was a really young kid too, right? When he was playing with
I think you're right.
Had like Woodstock and shit. The guy's nuts.
And also credit to Hendrix bassist Noel Redding, really good band. The only other honorable mention I have, I do think Alex Van Halen deserves more credit. I've talked about that. The other one I was going to mention is a 90s era drummer. I'll probably work the 90s in maybe another time in this, depending on my last minute decision. But Soundgarden's got a really cool drummer too. Matt Cameron has some really cool grooves, and they do a lot of like 5 and 7 types of time signatures. I'm just regurgitating things I've heard. I can't do that. But
we'll fact check later.
He's got some really kind of badass grooves too, just like Alex Van Halen. So those are the honorable mentions.
Nice.
Absolutely beautiful pick. Completely unbiased, but I think that's a great pick, Seamus.
How many more shall we get?
I can go. I'm gonna cut the Neil Peart train for a sec. He was my runner-up, definitely. But yeah,
Chad Smith.
Chad Smith, yeah.
I do love Chad Smith, man.
Good drummer.
Chad Smith is a great drummer. He's really good. But yeah, I mean, John Bonham, just like, I feel like he had to get at least one pick on this because he deserves it. And like Neil Peart, it was really tough for me to decide. But I'm just thinking of like, I don't know. I don't know really anything about drumming, just like what I listen to and what I like. And the drumming in songs that like, whenever it really stands out to me, it's typically John Bonham. Specific songs like Moby Dick. I rarely listen to like a lot of drum solos, but that is one of the best drum solos ever, in my opinion. It's just so fun. And it's like one of my favorite Zeppelin songs.
Crushing those triplets.
I mean, the fact that Led Zeppelin came out on their debut album and had a drum solo in it.
Yeah.
Is like an unheard of, like no
And it
one
was
did that.
a really good one too.
Great
Like,
pick.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crushing it. Yeah, for me it's Moby Dick and Fool in the Rain. Just really highlight his prowess. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I just
When the levee breaks,
when the levee breaks.
I
I mean,
love-
yeah, I could keep
I
going.
love that
was
song.
always
just
gets my
so
head
nice.
banging, dude.
Yeah,
Dude, the way that they just chug,
yeah.
just
Yeah,
so
that's a
good.
good way to
John
put it.
Bonham. It's pretty self-explanatory. And yeah, I don't know anything about music. I just listen. So from a
I think
listener
that's a
Respect.
great pick. That's a
yeah.
great pick, man. John Bonham's a legend. I will say that I think I like John Bonham's drum sound more. I think
Then Neil.
than Neil Peart. Yeah, I like this like, but that comes from, you know, like mixing and production too. So I didn't want to give that too much weight, but I just love the way his drums sound, and they would do like interesting things, like put like a delay on the drums, which is kind of a weird thing to do. It's not very common, but it just sounded so big, and it was great stuff. Great stuff. Great choice, Jack.
Thank you. I did all the work. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. John owes you a lot. All right.
He does. All right, Dan.
Yeah, so I guess that leaves me. It's kind of funny that you tried to write it down for Seamus, but in fact it was I who was going to pick Stuart Copeland.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ooh.
Good choice.
Yeah, when I came
Yeah.
up with this, I definitely Seamus was going to be a fan of my top choices.
Yeah.
So I may have also picked Sting. Who knows? But yeah, Stuart Copeland. I immediately also thought Seamus brought up "Walking on the Moon" as a display of Sting's bass skills, which is totally true. But I think the star of that song is Stuart Copeland, and in a way, he can kind of be the star of the band. Like I know he started the band. He was like a military child going around all different countries, but just kind of wanted to make a punk band. Grabbed Sting, grabbed Andy Summers, and I think his drumming really plays a pivotal role in like their sound. Because they're like a power trio, you know. I love Andy Summers' guitar work. He has a case for being like one of the best, you know, in his own way. But yeah, for Stuart Copeland, I picked "Walking on the Moon" as a great display. "Next to You" off of their first album, Atlantis to More. That's an opening song on that album. Really huge. Starts with a loud drum fill. Comes in really strong. I would also say "Murder by Numbers," another good song.
So
Yeah.
I
Stuart
mean,
Copeland, yeah.
everything's good.
Yeah. You can pick any goddamn Police song and it'll be good, you know. Just a fact. But yeah, he just his like he's so intricate whenever he plays. Like he doesn't leave a beat like empty. Like he kind of like always fills the room. He uses a lot of like high tom sounds that I love, a lot of intricate rhythms, ghost notes, triplets. Like he really kind of keeps you guessing. You can easily lose the beat when he just starts going off, you know.
Great choice.
Yeah. Yeah, great choice. I thought about mentioning him. I think Outlandos to More, like everything on there is an example of his work.
Yeah, that's his
also-
album for sure.
A little Easter egg about Stuart Copeland. It's funny, Dan, that your two picks have like outside references. Stuart
yeah.
Copeland, if you guys ever played the Spyro video games, Stuart Copeland composed the soundtracks for those.
Really?
Yeah,
And-
listen to the drum
Yes,
beats on those
yeah.
songs. It's him.
Specifically
awesome.
the first game, there's some actually like really cool, especially when you incorporate it with the visuals of the video game. It's pretty cool. There's a YouTube video out there that has Police songs to Spyro video game, and it just fits so perfectly.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's kind of cool.
I played the hell out of Spyro when I was a kid.
If someone could
yeah.
pick that out while I was hanging out with them or something, that would be, you know, like they didn't know that Easter egg and we're playing Spyro and they're like, this kind of sounds like
Copeland. Yeah.
this is super, like, holy shit.
This kid's sick.
A hidden police album.
I would give a runner up to Phil Collins as one of like my personal favorite drummers,
Yeah.
and kind of
Uh-huh.
another like under the radar. Like I think, especially nowadays, people don't really think of him as a drummer and kind of stop thinking of him as a drummer in like the 90s, 2000s, you know, especially after he was huge in the 80s and, you know, became the Tarzan guy. But yeah, some of his like early work on Genesis when he was just behind the kit, you know, he really plays.
I knew you're a big
stuff.
Genesis guy too. I was wondering if you're going to bring him
I
up.
just got to shout him out, yeah. Because when they perform live, they would have like a drummer in the back when Phil took over, and at like a point in every show, Phil would go back, sit. There'd be 2 drum kits that are huge. You know, he likes a lot of toms too, and there would be just a drum duet, and they would pop off for like 5 minutes. Really cool performances.
Yeah,
so just shouting them out.
Good shout. Do we want to go guitar or vocals next?
I don't know, man.
Let's go vocals.
I was gonna say
vocals.
guitar last. Yeah, let's go vocals.
If we do
next.
vocals, I request that I go before Seamus.
Okay, you start then.
Yeah, you got it.
Go ahead.
Thought about this one for a while. Really like the answer I came up with.
AC/DC lead singer?
Keith Moon.
No,
All
Keith
right.
Moon, nice.
Keith Moon. No, he's actually a horrible singer. But yeah, I bring up the Seamus thing just because I feel like I'm going to move from his like 12th favorite person to like 5th or 6th. And super unique voice. Sounds incredible at his older age. Fun, like live crowd work type stuff.
Oh, that's someone who's gotten older over time. Interesting.
My God.
Yeah.
My God.
And
wow.
Yeah. So I was actually a little bit torn
man.
on it too, because I know Seamus is like big into the Bon Scott era. So
yeah,
you know, like maybe I don't know, he's not as big as a fan, but I just remember seeing this one clip on YouTube a few years back. It's him on Howard Stern with Angus, like just cold, just drinking coffee early in the morning. And he hands Angus a guitar, and Howard Stern asked him to play all night long, and he sounds incredible. He just nails it. I was like, wow, like, you know, no like studio editing, no just, you know, again, cold early in the morning.
You mean like Brian Johnson sound incredible?
Yeah. So that might be it was like a studio session type atmosphere. You know, they're just sitting there doing an interview, and he just belts out an incredible performance.
Yeah. That's impossible.
Awesome.
Without warming up at like 7:30 in the morning.
I think
there's no shot you can sound good, but it's impressive.
And all the drugs he did the night before.
All the cocktails from
I
last
did
night,
not feel very good at 7 this morning.
But that's probably my prominent song. And then runners up, I have Neil Young, which I think I showed you guys briefly last week. Stevie Nicks, Get the Woman on the podcast, and then the throwback to the Chicago episode, Robert Lamb. I really like what Jack said about him. Appreciating his voice, and so true that
That's
first
a pretty bad take, but
Chicago Transit Authority. So I think that's a worthwhile runner up there.
I might have missed it, but did you mention some songs you want to put on?
Just the You Shook Me All Night Long from the Howard Stern interview, but
he means for the playlist.
Too. Yeah.
I'm just
Is it on Spotify?
No, I don't think so.
I'm just putting the studio album on, studio version.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we can find.
I mean, that works. He still rocks into the studio album.
Dude, honestly, maybe that and Back in Black, I'd say.
Yeah. Dude, great picking. Yeah, I didn't expect that, and
neither did I.
Totally agree and like respect. I had a lot of trouble with vocals. I don't know. I just couldn't really pick.
It's hard.
And that's a great pick right there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I can go. I think my runner up, and this was really hard, was
Anthony Kiedis. Oh, sorry.
Not Anthony Kiedis. Susan Tedeschi. Like Tedeschi Trucks Band.
Oh wow.
Her voice is just like angel-esque. Like it's just so beautiful. And I'm like in love with her. She's amazing. And I have like missed out on seeing the Tedeschi Trucks Band like a few times. And I always regret it because I listen to her music and I think, man, I wish I was there for that. Her voice is just like so beautiful. I mean, you could listen to like Midnight in Harlem is, you know, one of their biggest songs. And her voice is incredible on that. Let me just quickly look at my
Angel from Montgomery.
She isn't even my pick, so I guess I shouldn't put stuff on.
That's fine.
You can do whatever you
But
want.
let's see. Tedeschi. Oh, she does a great cover of Alabama by Neil Young. Spoiler alert, he's my pick. If I ever want to listen to Neil Young, I can't on Spotify, which is bullshit.
Yeah, fuck. He
I
took
listened
it off.
Yeah. Sorry, you
He
can't
took it
pick
off
him.
because of goddamn Joe Rogan. But yeah, her cover of Alabama Live is like, I'm gonna say like that's also a great example of Neil Young's vocals is Alabama. Like that song is beautiful. So Susan and Neil both kind of crushed that song. I know I was giving Inky crap for Neil Young and his whiny voice, but like
Yeah.
I love his whiny voice. Like I think it's so unique, and he's one of my favorite musicians of all time. I struggled, like I was thinking of putting him as my favorite guitarist. I ended up not doing it. He's also just like his solos and some of his longer ballad songs are just like incredible. Like Down by the River is just like I think one of the best solos ever. But I'm getting off topic. His vocals in say like Ohio or Alabama. He does a lot of stuff about states. Or like Southern Man or Old Man. I mean, you could just like name all of his songs.
Yeah.
And his voice is still amazing, like in old age.
Yeah.
I think it's aged well and it's really unique. And especially like his stuff with like CSNY, like
Yep.
you know, that one live album that they have, that's actually on Spotify, so I could put that on.
Yep. I love Deja Vu, you know, that whole album they did too.
Yeah. I mean, it's so good.
Woodstock, that one, yeah.
Yeah,
Love that song.
Woodstock. So Far, another great album. Yeah, like I'm trying to think of.
For me, it was Tonight's the Night. I like that album a lot. Love Mellow My Mind. I think he sounds incredible in that song.
Sugar Mountain, beautiful song, and he crushes the vocals on that.
Amazing guitar work in that one too.
Yeah, his voice is like, it can be really intense when he does like say like with Live Rust. Like, you know, he has a lot of songs that are really like harsh distorted guitar and his voice matches that, but then he has really delicate acoustic songs and I think his voice matches that super well there. Like it's such a range with his voice. He can go from really harsh rock to really like, oh, we lost Seamus. He must hate Neil Young.
Yeah, he hates your take.
Screw this list.
So yeah, I grew up listening to him. He's definitely one of my favorite musicians ever, and it's such a shame, but that he's not on Spotify. So I just have to listen to all of his albums, which I have a ton of. So I've been collecting now these Spotify. Yeah, that's my pick.
Nice.
Can I just say I predicted that Neil Young would be on yours, and that I thought Dan was going to have Phil Collins on his. I thought I haven't predicted as many as I thought I would. Inky going with Brian Johnson was really, that was out of left field.
That one
He's shocking in every category.
He just climbed up the list for me. He was correct about that. I didn't really like him that much before that pick.
You're about to get a new OnlyFans subscription, Inky.
Who wants it next?
I'll go. So we're doing vocals, right? Yeah, I think
Brian Johnson is in fact a singer.
Vocals for me was hard. I think it was the hardest one to decide on because there's so many, even just within rock, which is what we're sticking with, there's so many different styles of vocals. And we mentioned on some of the previous podcasts about how like certain vocal combos they're like, you know, known for being together, like Paul McCartney and John Lennon, stuff like that. So my runner up isn't a single person. It's a vocal combo, which is why I didn't pick them. But so Jefferson Airplanes, Grace Slick and Marty Balin. I think their vocals are insane. Grace Slick is an amazing singer.
And her on her own, man. I'd just pick her, you know. She's great.
But I love the way that their voices and the timbres of their voices harmonize. Because Marty Balin has like a super interesting singing voice, and they're both of them are very like expressive and emotional with the way that they sing. And Grace Slick has this like crazy like vibrato that she does with her voice.
Vibrato. It's insane.
And one of my favorite songs as far as vocals go, because they're one of my favorite bands of all time, is I think it's High Flying Bird is a great example of both of their vocals, just how expressive they are, how amazing Grace Slick's voice is. But I didn't pick them because they're two people. But I just had to shout them out because they're amazing. I think my number one choice is gonna be a bit of a surprise. It kind of surprised me, to be honest, when I got to it and decided. But I've got to go with Eddie Vedder. And
Love it.
That's
Yes.
gonna be a
Yes.
hot take, man.
Cool.
I'm totally with
Dude.
you, bro.
his voice is absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's so awesome.
Fucking
one of the
iconic.
one of the most expressive grunge era singers ever. I think I like his voice more than Kurt Cobain. They do different things, but the way he would just kind of like growl on the mic too is just and like hum and
I feel like at some point we got to talk about 10, their first album.
Oh yeah, that
Mhm.
could definitely be an
I feel like we
episode.
got to talk about that one.
Yeah,
but
down.
he's by far he came out on top. Like there was no one else who I was like, as far as rock goes, where I was like, oh, like those are vocals that like I would want to emulate. Like I could listen to over and over again. That I wish more music was coming out like this. Like he takes the cake. Yeah, I'm still in the airport, by the way.
You should.
I would
I
say-
dare you to turn around and just be like, "Hey, I'm recording a podcast here."
Do you know who I am? All right. A good example of his voice, I mean, Black is one of their most well-known songs, but it's for a good reason. Like he absolutely just kills the vocals on that song. And
I think
it's
you mean African American.
I actually mean colored individual.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But dude, he kills that
Thanks.
song. It's amazing. He also is a great lyricist as well. But just straight vocals is it comes out at number one.
Have you guys listened to the new album, Giveaway?
I haven't.
I have not.
Oh,
Me
I've
neither.
not.
It's I think it's like a live show in Melbourne, but it just came out. It's supposed to be like really. It was on Record Store Day, I think. It released. On
Yeah,
Record
you've
Store.
seen Pearl Jam before, right?
Yeah, I saw him the first
Yeah.
Made in America back
Made
in
in
like
Amer- yeah,
2012.
yeah.
I was in 8th grade. It was. I think I was like, I was in middle school. Jay-Z came on too. Pretty crazy. It was Jay-Z's festival, and it was like the last night of the last performance. It was pretty awesome.
I need to
That's great.
listen to more of their stuff, and they're kind of the last of like the '90s heavies around.
So good.
Excluding like Smashing Pumpkins. So, I should really, I guess, I should really make an attempt to see them. Nigel, you got anything else?
I mean, Soldier of Love is another great song. The cover. But the vocals on that are great, but no, I don't got much else. Like just an amazing vocalist.
So I'd like to go next, and I think Dan's probably the most qualified to go last on this, anyways, because
Yep.
yeah,
did
was
some
it an
singing in my
acapella?
day?
Was it a little bit? Was it an acapella group that you were part of?
Yeah, I was in two in college. I was in an all-male one and a co-ed one, and I music directed both of them, which is kind of nuts.
Nice.
That's all.
There's a lot of work.
So I wanted
Trying with
to.
14 people.
Geez.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I just wanted to go after Nigel because this is some of the first, not the first actually. We've got two other picks from the '90s. I thought so. There's a lot of great singers in the grunge era. Eddie Vedder is one that I think a lot of people don't like. I think he kind of like embodies that like male throat singy thing that like grunge singers do. I obviously am the biggest proponent of that genre amongst all of us. So it's funny that
Whoa,
Nigel
whoa,
and
whoa.
Eddie.
I'm a huge grunge man.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So Vetter's a good pick, and I think they recently in the last year put their MTV Unplugged on Spotify. And that's really cool. Alive is a really good one off of that
Yeah.
in terms of the whole band's performance and the vocal performance. Kurt Cobain, you mentioned as an honorable mention, another focal member of the 90s grunge scene. You talked about
Yeah, whatever happened to him, man?
You talked about the harmonies, if that was a choice. I've talked before about Jerry Cantrell and Lane Staley from Alice in Chains. By the way, I think I've mentioned this, but Man in the Box Live, I forget, I'm drawing a blank on what venue it was. It's the first one that comes up on YouTube. It's like a black and white video. Lane Staley, fucking unbelievable. And the chorus that he sings when they come out of the guitar solo, it's like one of the more impressive things I could point to from a vocal standpoint. So my pick is also from the 90s grunge era. I do want to give a shout out though, real quick, honorable mention. Freddie Mercury. Surprised nobody's brought him up yet.
I know when Nigel mentioned vibrato, I just thought Freddie Mercury. Like his vibrato is amazing. Like if you hear the isolated vocals of like Bohemian Rhapsody, it's unreal how incredible his voice is there.
He was up there, but he's not my style of rock that I'd like to listen to.
Fair. It's a little bit more theatrical, you know.
I love him. I think he's great. But I agree.
It's a good point, Seamus.
No, he's awesome. Shout out David Lee Roth too. Again, I didn't want to just pick every Van Halen member, even though I could have. He also wasn't with the band the whole time, so but he's got some funny isolated tracks as well as they are impressive. My pick is Chris Cornell though. I don't know if you guys were catching on to that as I named every other 90s grunge singer. Chris Cornell is another one who is like heralded for his power and his reach. If I would say off the top of my head for the two songs, I mean there's a couple. So one is an Audio Slave song. Actually, it's Doesn't Remind Me, but the acoustic version is great because it's just him with his guitar and he's singing. And again, it's essentially an isolated vocal track with him playing guitar. And I would say either Spoon Man or Super Unknown. The song I was going to say is Burden in My Hand because that's great for every member of the band. And he's good in that one. But part of the reason I picked him is because I talked about like their contributions to the whole band. And Chris Cornell, this is crazy. This is actually something I got off an interview with Kim Fale, Soundgarden's guitarist, another awesome guitarist, on Rick Beato's channel. He was interviewing him, Chris Novoselic from Nirvana, and like a prominent producer from the time. Because they worked on a project called, I think it's called Third Secret together. Really cool, kind of like modern take on grunge. They've got some cool stuff. And in that interview, Kim Fale was saying that Chris Cornell actually started with Soundgarden as a drummer. He was still writing a lot of the songs. And the way he wrote a lot of the times was that he would start with a melody and then like transcribe that into a guitar part, which can be tricky. And if you watch Soundgarden guitar lessons, there's a lot of really weird tunings, like Burden in My Hand being one of them. And some really interesting chords and stuff too, some really interesting voicings. So again, just really like a great voice who was a prominent part of writing the songs, and also very talented, and his ability to translate it into guitar, which he also, I think he played some rhythm guitar for them, probably maybe some lead in their early days. And just like the icing on the cake is that he started off as the drummer too. So just very talented all around. And obviously, I think it was just a matter of chance that they picked up a drummer to let him free up to singing, as opposed to bringing in a singer to keep him on drums. And like, what a shame that would have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thought a good bit about that one, but Chris Cornell's who I'm going with.
Awesome.
Nice. So I guess this is kind of a tough choice. I mean, there's a lot of great vocalists in rock. pretty much every album we've talked about has had an iconic vocalist, or every album we've discussed, If I had to give shout outs, I would say Daryl Hall, of Hall and Oates. I think he has one of the most iconic 80s rock pop voices, I would also give a shout out to Van Morrison, actually. I'm a big fan of Van Morrison, and I think that dude is one of the most like
awesome.
recognizable voices and tones ever. So low and rumbly. But I gave this one to Sting. Yeah, I saw
Really?
it. Yeah, Seamus picked Sting for bassist, and I was like, yeah, I picked him as a vocalist because the guy is undeniably talented.
Yeah.
I think as a songwriter, he may be one of the best. The Police definitely have some of like the most iconic hits. I mean, I mostly bring it up because like the Police is like a power trio. You got a lot. Stuart Copeland's banging on the drums. Andy Summers always has his great guitar riffs. Sting's playing the bass. But I've been listening to the Live Aid performance from 1985. Like it's a lot of famous musicians played both in the U.S. and in Britain on the same day. And Sting performed, and he played Roxanne, Driven to Tears, Message in a Bottle, and Every Breath You Take. And he's playing guitar, and on some of those songs, Phil Collins is singing like backup vocals with him. So I would definitely recommend listening to them performing Every Breath You Take, Sting and Phil Collins, and his performance of Roxanne. Because it's really just kind of empty. He's playing like an extremely subtle guitar riff, and he's just like having the most fun with like the vocal part.
Mm-hmm. That's a great choice.
Good picks there. I should have saw Daryl Hall coming from you, but good pick.
Yeah, I mean, this list mostly it's what I've been listening to a lot recently. It's kind of what's like fresh in your mind. I feel like it can always like change.
I love that like English, like that era of like English rock vocal with Sting or with the Police and
Dire Straits.
Yeah.
English shown.
Yeah.
Mark Knopfler.
Who else am I thinking of? The Smiths.
Is that a little foreshadowing
No,
to your guitar?
Yeah, Morrissey, man, I like it.
Yeah,
Morrissey's a good contender for vocalist.
definitely.
Yeah.
Dan, you familiar with the Sting's Little Wing version?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Covers Little Wing, and I honestly haven't listened to it, but my girlfriend's dad has brought it up multiple times. He loves it. Thinks it's better than the original somehow, but apparently he just nails the vocals on it.
So check it out.
That's one for you to try. Yeah.
Dude, there's a lot of great covers of Little Wing. Like I feel so many people cover it. It's such a good song. South Austin Jug Band is probably my favorite version. Just a real jug band bluegrass version of it. Stevie Ray Vaughan's version, amazing.
Ooh.
Anything Stevie Ray
Vaughan's so good.
Oh my god! I didn't even consider.
Yeah, I'm changing my answer for guitarist.
He's so good.
Yeah, there's too many to pick for that one. Just had to go with your gut.
Damn, dude. I can't change it. I can't think about Stevie, but he's definitely, I think, a good transition into guitar.
We got a long way to go.
League meeting.
All right, guitar guys. What do you got?
Yeah.
I just want to make a quick amendment and say that I've actually been lying the whole time, and my Mount Rushmore is just the 4 brass players for Real Big Fish.
Oh,
Yeah.
Amazing.
How could you say something so controversial yet so brave?
That's so good.
Dude, I mean, who wants to lead us? I mean, fuck. This could be a long.
I know.
Yeah,
right?
but we'll try to
I kind of have a weird take, so I can start out this one.
Hell yeah.
Sure, go for
Yeah,
it.
I feel like one kind of genre or era of music, I don't know if we've really touched on or talked about. It's like that the second British invasion in like the kind of early to mid 90s. We got bands like Oasis, and the band that I'm talking about is Radiohead. I don't know if you guys are fans of Radiohead.
I'm a big fan of Radiohead.
Yeah, I got into Radiohead.
Well, their old stuff.
Yeah, their old stuff is sick. But I do
He
like
was
In
into them
Rainbows.
before they were mainstream,
I was into them before, and they were like Telegram Head or something.
before they were formed.
Before Nigel was
Yeah.
born.
We went to elementary school together. But yeah, so I really like Radiohead. I got into them like this past year, like last summer, and kind of like went through all their music, starting from Pablo Honey, you know, Creep, the song that kind of put them on the map. But I really like their guitarist Johnny Greenwood. Like I know Tom York, he's a pretty good guitarist, more like singer-songwriter in his own right. Plays a lot of piano. But I really like Johnny Greenwood's guitar playing. I think in terms of like fitting into a band and kind of defining a sound, especially for their early stuff. Like I love the guitar tones and like Pablo Honey, the bends, and especially like OK Computer, which is like probably their like
Great
magnum
album.
opus album. Yeah, like I really point to Paranoid Android as like my favorite song by them. And that's like an odyssey of a song. Like I just love that song. It's got sick, like rumbly guitar riffs and an amazing solo by Johnny Greenwood on that. And another song I would point to is Weird Fishes off of In
One of my favorite
Rainbows.
songs.
Yeah, like the like kind of looping guitar riff and how it builds in that song and becomes so much larger, you know.
Yeah. That's another great song that has a lot of really good covers too. Weird Fishes. Yeah, that's such a good song.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a bit of a left field pick, but I respect
He
it.
kind of shreds. He's subtle, you know. I kind of point to him and like Lindsey Buckingham as people that are like criminally underrated.
Nice.
Circling back to that pick.
Definitely out of left field there. I'm actually not too familiar with Radiohead. I did mention, I thought when you said second British Invasion, I thought you were gonna go down the Oasis road.
Now I don't really like Oasis, but they're like,
dude, I've been
that's what
listening to them
people
a
think of,
lot
right?
lately.
I like Oasis.
Yeah, maybe it's just that thing we were talking about with the Clash, where I just feel like I'm in England at you know, that soccer game or something like that. Maybe that's just why. But yeah, solid pick, Dan.
Seamus, you want to go?
I think maybe Seamus would want to go last.
Okay. All right.
I wouldn't mind going last. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I guess I can go since, again, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a musician, so it's really just like what I like to listen to. I don't know any specific like best in class, like, you know, who's actually the best guitarist. So this was like for everyone, it's really tough. It's a tough choice. I guess some runner-ups for me. It's all kind of a similar theme, but Derek Trucks and Dwayne Allman are my two biggest runner-ups. I just
It's amazing.
I'm a slut for a slide guitar, man. I love slide guitar, and like I love the Allman Brothers, and they're both just so good, and they're legends, and they've like paved the road for so much great stuff. Like the Trucks family has done so much great stuff, and like, you know, it's paved a road for like Billy Strings, who's like phenomenal in his like mandolin and his banjo and his guitar, and I think he's probably, in my opinion, Billy Strings is probably the best guitarist of like our generation, who's out right now. John Mayer is also up there, I think, too. And some like the contemporary best guitarists who are like touring right now, and who are like kind of hot right now, in my opinion. Neil Young was also really high up there for me. Like his solos are just unreal. I just didn't want to pick him for more than one thing, so I went with vocals. And also John Frusciante is his solo stuff. If you guys haven't listened to his solo stuff, it's like when he was not in the Chili Peppers. He's phenomenal. Like it's so good. And like I mean, Chili Peppers are probably my favorite band, so it's hard not to say that like I love him as guitarist. But you know, I kept just coming back to this, and I know he's not the best like classically or anything, but like in terms of what I love to listen to the most and what I actually do listen to the most is Jerry Garcia. Like, just,
Nice.
I mean, you know, he's just like what he did, and like the cult that he has built following him, and like how much music he inspired. And like we live in an age of like, for better or worse, like so many jam bands now, and there's a lot of, in my opinion, pretty crappy jam bands out there that do just a lot of noodling. Like I'm not a big Fish fan. I hate Fish. But you can't discredit the fact that he inspired like such a giant generation of musicians. And like it's kind of tough to pick like, it's essentially like what's your favorite Dead song almost, like where his guitar is really shining. And like you really need to go to like specific shows if you really want to get into like the best Jerry there is. And I was thinking like, I really like love the slide guitar from these other artists, and like then I was thinking, well, Jerry, like on New Ride of the Purple Sage, that other band, like his slide is phenomenal on that. He's so good, and he does a lot of great mandolin work, and he works with a lot of like mandolin players, and he's just really versatile too. And yeah, I think I need to kind of, before I like give my top songs, to like really highlight this, and I feel like you could also lean on Inki and Seamus to like help pick songs for Jerry's best guitar, because
Already thinking about it.
I don't really know, man. It's tough. I'm trying to think. I mean, like he does some really great Eyes of the World guitar, and a lot of those are phenomenal. I think it really highlights there. All the stuff on Reckoning, like his acoustic work there, is great.
Good shout. Yep.
Like his bird song, his acoustic bird song is like unbelievable. On Reckoning.
Yeah.
And then like the 11 is like one of the most complex songs ever. They stopped playing it because it was like the time signature was just like too hard to keep doing over and over again. But if you listen to the 11, it's like, they did a lot in like the 60s and stuff. It's a crazy song, and it's just like so complex and so good. And same with the other one. I think the other one's up there as well for just like incredible guitar. But it's also like he just jams in any song, and it goes on for 20 minutes, and it's just like, it's so cool, and you just get immersed in it, and you never know where it's going next. Some people say the Dead is always just playing Dark Star, and they're just kind of going between Dark Stars with different jams of other songs. It's just their Dark Star, and that's what it is. And yeah, I think Jerry shines there. So
I mean, not many artists can do that.
Because I just love Jerry.
Awesome.
I would say like Franklin's Tower, because it also has his vocal in there, and it's just a really good. It's a really good synopsis of like both his vocal abilities and lead guitar. And Neil.
Should I just do like I'm thinking, do you think just like the studio version?
I say live stuff is in play. I mean, why not? I mean, we're talking about
we'll just do like heady.
What we're
520.
Yeah, we're talking about
the Sportatorium.
Which one?
522. 77, I think. The Sportatorium. Hope I'm right on that. I was thinking the Going to Terrapin, Sugaree.
Oh yeah, dude,
I love that.
Jerry highlights it. The new down 72. If you want something more emotive.
Dude, we're going down a rabbit hole right now.
I know we gotta slow down. This is gonna go on for way too many hours.
Dude,
if our listeners,
Working Man's Dead.
Oh,
if our guitar on that one.
Dan, was that?
Oh yeah.
Some good old twanging on that one.
I'm down for that.
Not many people can rip a 10-minute song, dude. I think of Jerry Garcia and Taylor Swift, and that's about it, dude.
I meant to say that only if you were talking. I think it was Dan who was saying like we haven't talked about the genre yet, and I was like, "Fucking Taylor Swift, here it comes." Here's the day of the podcast.
It's gonna happen. There's gonna have to be a Taylor Swift album.
It's the X Factor, dude. The fifth position.
We got to appeal to the fans.
The crazy horse.
Crazy horse.
Yeah, good shout on Jerry. I was gonna be blown away if nobody talked about him in this whole.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude, there's what's it? Europe 72, the Wembley show. Hurts Me Too to Dark Star to Sugar Magnolia. It's a 32-minute Dark Star, so it's not for everybody. But those three Yeah, listen to this. You're gonna love it.
Just wait.
Wait 20 more minutes.
Just wait.
On this one.
It's coming. It's coming. I'm telling you.
What's coming? Trust me, it's coming. It goes, hurts me too, Dark Star, Sugar Magnolia, and then a caution, don't step on the tracks. That's also 20 minutes. But that right there, I think that encapsulates so well what the Dead are, and it's just a great highlight. So I don't think I'm gonna throw that on the playlist because it'll double the length of the playlist.
Oh, send it.
Anyways, yeah.
Awesome.
I can't wait till we talk about a Dead show, man. That's gonna be a 7-hour-long episode. Anyway.
No, great,
Inki,
great reasoning.
I'll go.
you want to?
Yeah, Nigel.
Yeah, I'll hit it. So I this might be a little bit of heresy, but I decided to go with the keyboardist instead of a guitarist.
No, you didn't.
I'm out, dude.
No.
I'm out.
No, I actually didn't. I thought about it, but I was like, that is maybe taking this step too far. I wasn't gonna do runners up because I figured everyone would be talked about already, but we haven't talked about my runners up yet. So, my runners up starting off is Eddie Van Halen. I mean,
Nice.
I think we knew that name was probably going to come up at some point during the guitar portion, and I have a feeling it might come
Most
up
likely.
again.
Yeah, maybe.
You've been doing something wrong.
But I mean, I won't get into it too much because I think it will come up again. But I want to shout out Eddie Van Halen's his soloing ability obviously is amazing, but also just the more rhythmic guitar parts that he writes for the songs are also really impressive. And like soloists or solos get a lot of attention, and guitar in general gets a lot of attention. I think it's kind of overrated. I don't love the guitar, to be honest.
Coming from a drummer.
But
Flaming hot take.
I mean, I played the guitar before I played the drums, but
Yeah. Fair.
No, it's the loudest, yeah.
but I mean, but I think that rhythmic guitar or rhythm guitar is kind of like an undervalued
Agree.
aspect of a band. And if you think of a lot of your favorite songs, whether you can hear it without paying attention or not, there's usually a really talented rhythm guitarist playing underneath everything that adds to the rhythm, right? They're playing along with the drums or whatever. But I think Eddie Van Halen is really good at that. And if you listen to Van Halen, specifically looking out for their rhythmic stuff, you'll be pretty impressed in that area. My other runner up. Well, I mean, I'll just jump straight into it. My number one is Jimmy.
Okay.
Page. Yep, not Jimi Hendrix.
Oh,
Jimmy
really?
Page.
Ooh.
I
Yeah,
thought for
yeah.
sure.
Led you in the wrong direction there for a little bit.
Oh, sorry, Jack.
That's okay. It doesn't matter.
I thought you meant Jimmy Buffett.
Actually, I meant Jimmy John's. It's a great sandwich.
Oh, stop. I'm so hungry.
That'd be so out of pocket if you said Jimmy Buffett.
So out of pocket.
I would lose so much
Credibility
respect.
gone. Everything
Wow,
we
you're
worked for.
you consider yourself a music person? Okay.
You know, you're just an alcoholic if you're like Jimmy Buffett.
But yeah, Jimmy Page is my number one. Jimi Hendrix is my runner up. And Jack mentioned a couple guitarists earlier who were like heavily inspired by Jimi Hendrix. And I think the only reason Jimi Hendrix didn't come out on top for me personally is I don't listen to the Hendrix Experience very often. It's not like something I play a lot. I kind of have to be in the mood to play that. Whereas like Led Zeppelin is something that I'll listen to pretty frequently.
At like 8 a.m. Sunday morning, I'll just fucking throw it on.
It's I mean it's so good, and it's also technically interesting. Like, so one of the songs I'm gonna say to listen to is Black Dog. Super interesting, because it's not just like, oh, Jimmy Page can shred on guitar, which obviously he can, but he writes super complex or ear-catching parts. And in that song, the guitar is playing, I think, an 8/7 time signature, and the drums are playing 4/4, and you can hear it looping, and it's kind of like this weird polyrhythm where you're hearing things loop, but they're not lining up with each other, and it almost sounds like it's wrong, but then it's not wrong, and it just sounds awesome, especially when it loops around eventually, and everything hits on the downbeat you expect it to hit on. But yeah, Jimmy Page is definitely my most listened to guitarist for the sake of guitar. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about it other than Led Zeppelin was stacked.
Nice pick. Yeah, they're like number one rank for sure in terms of bands, just stacked team.
Yeah.
Musicianship wise, especially, like, yeah, and we've talked about it, like every song is listenable. It's insane.
Yeah.
Except for Hot Dog.
Crazy. Except for Immigrant
That is
Song.
the one.
Whoa.
Anyways, that's not
Cut his mic, Inki cut his mic.
Inki, you're up.
Yep, that's right. Let's see. I'm gonna circle back to a little bit of what Nigel was talking about. It's not Johnny Greenwood. I'm just bringing the text over. And the rhythm pieces. I think I'm gonna speak to Dan a little bit too with this pick here. As our 8 subscribers have gathered, we're pretty focused on like the solos, and especially Seamus. Like, look at his shirt. And yeah, so like a little bit.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the Van Halen shirt. My bad. Okay, but anyway.
No, I fucked up. I should have put that on today.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But going a bit of a different route, I've always been pretty fond of rhythm guitar, like Nigel said. The kind of accentuating certain notes, melodic progressions, all of the right hand work, the strumming hand, and everything that takes a really basic set of chords, something we could all play and learn in 30 minutes, like from this like middle school campfire version to something like Magic Bus by The Who, really simple chords, but obviously there's a huge difference between what we're doing and what Pete's doing. And that was one of my runner-ups, but I cannot have.
I was gonna say,
that'd be really weird. I don't, like I said, I want to make it perfectly clear. I don't like him that much, but he's definitely a prime kind of fits the description of that.
Just to be clear, I hate The Who, but
I never listened to him. I don't know any of the songs.
Individually, though, they're amazing. I guess,
but together they're garbage.
Yeah.
Your Mount Rushmore is The Who, but with Brian Johnson.
I don't know if that'll work. Could work though.
I could do an impression because I'm just thinking of Pinball Wizard, but with Brian Johnson's voice.
Another runner-up I had was Clapton. I think he's such a technician. Everything he plays sounds perfect, acoustic or electric. But
hear him called out. I'm not a huge Clapton fan, but
I know, yeah. But yeah, I actually have a duo here: Keith Richards and Mick Taylor. They're like acoustic rhythm work on "Let It Bleed," "Beggar's Banquet," "Sticky Fingers." Jack, you can go on Spotify. I think there's like these 3 little dots at the top, and you just hit like add album, just all 3 of those, dump them into the it's genius. They're like, those 3 is just the greatest showcasing, and you really can't just do one of them. I think obviously Keith is much more well known, but Mick Taylor is definitely, he does a lot of the slide stuff, which kind of circling back to what you were talking about, Jack. So maybe worth checking out for that. I know you're also not the biggest Stones guy, but
I'm not. I think that's the wrong take. I really do love the Stones. Like, Let It Bleed is one of my favorite albums ever. And Some Girls, such a good album.
Yeah. But actually, if I had to pick one song out of those 3, probably No Expectations. And I think that one was mostly Keith. So yeah, shout out to the rhythm guitar.
Hell yeah. Stones are killing it.
So how is that being sculpted? Like, is one half of it going to be Keith Richards' face and the other half of the face going to be?
I didn't think that through as much. but that might be a good way to go about it. Probably split it vertically. I wouldn't do it horizontally.
What song did you say, Inki? I missed it.
I feel
No
like that's implied.
What?
No expectations. Beggars
Okay.
Banquet.
Cheeky. You track.
Yeah. Nice one. Nice one. There's so much you could pick for the Stones. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what Stone's guitar song I mean, Can't You Hear Me Knocking's not a bad pick.
Yeah, Can't You Hear Me Knocking I think I'll put that on the playlist.
Yeah.
Monkey Man.
Dead Flowers. No, I'm just kidding.
I think Can't You Hear Me Knocking is one of those songs. I was thinking of the songs that like I can listen to over and over again without getting bored of. Can't You Hear Me Knocking is definitely on that list.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I think
Stones are sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say Moonlight Mile, just top 3 song, any artist all time. But that I'd say that one's mostly.
You're a big fan of that song.
I do love that song, man. It's so good.
Yeah.
Put it on there. Fantastic.
You got anything else, Inky?
No. Floor is yours.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about 30 different musicians here, but so everybody hang tight. I'm not going to dramatize my pick. Pretty sure you guys all know. Pretty sure the Vegas odds on my Mount Rushmore guitarist pick were like minus 2,000 on Eddie Van Halen. And I would say Vegas got that one correct. We've talked about it before. I love Van Halen as a band. Eddie, so influential, inspired Jerry Cantrell and many others in that like late 80s, 90s wave of hair metal and grunge and everything else. That was just hard rock, you know. So a lot of people in that band deserve credit, as we talked about before. Eddie, phenomenal guitarist, lead, rhythm, and also the showmanship, the tapping. I just saw a video of him the other day doing like elephant noises with his guitar and just weird shit like that. I do
that all the time, dude. What do you mean?
Yeah. So obviously a master of his craft, and we've talked about that before. Also integral to their songwriting, crushed the synth in 1984 as if he didn't contribute enough already with guitar. As I said, or maybe one of you guys said, basically like Van Halen's type of band, they've got a lot of good artists, but if you're talking about an MVP, it's just always going to be Eddie. So he's my pick. We mentioned a lot of good runners up here. Clapton is one that a lot of us don't probably listen to that much, but he deserves to be recognized here. The Beatles have hardly been discussed in this, which I don't think is incorrect, because we've talked with them before about how like musicianship is not what they're known for. It's songwriting, composition, production, experimentation. I think Nigel alluded to like John and Paul's harmonies in the vocal element. George Harrison, good guitarist, heavily influenced by Clapton. Don't know if he makes it. Yeah, he's got some solo stuff. I don't know if he makes it to the Mount Rushmore status, but I just feel like we need to get the Beatles in here a little bit more.
Ringo's a good drummer. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about Hendrix. So two that I wanted to point out. I already talked about Alex Lifeson. Two other ones I wanted to point out were Tom Scholz from Boston. I think he was their. I think he sang and was their primary guitarist. I'm not sure. Kind of a weird band. I mean, kind of a one album wonder. I like the second album a lot, but so I think that's why their individuals don't get talked about more. But dude, I mean, the guitar work on Boston is phenomenal. Really, all of the instrumentation on it is phenomenal. But they do some really cool stuff with combinations of they incorporate like 12 strings and acoustics, and then play like an overdriven guitar that's playing these really awesome lead parts over it. Like every song on the album. I mean, Foreplay, Hitch a Ride, Let Me Take You Home Tonight. Love that album so much. The other one that comes to mind right now that I want to give an honorable mention to is Angus. Inky, I kind of thought you might talk about Angus Young, especially since you shouted out Brian Johnson as a singer. And I don't know if Angus deserves to be considered like in the conversation for the greatest guitarist ever, but just so iconic. I mean, he's really what drives AC/DC. Obviously, I think Malcolm wrote the bulk of the songs. Who, to Nigel's point and Inky's point, talking about the importance of a rhythm guitarist, Malcolm's rhythm was brilliant, and that's what Angus kind of just riffed off of so well. So I just feel like Angus again, like he's the star of the show. If you've ever seen their concerts, he's just a nut, a goofball. You know what I mean on stage, but he's ripping it up. And every AC/DC song has a guitar solo in it. Their songs probably a little repetitive in terms of song structure. But I just think Angus deserves credit. There's probably a bunch of other guys that I'm forgetting about, maybe guys from like the 90s bands. I think Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins does some really cool stuff.
Mhm.
I'm glad that Jerry started getting in the conversation here. Garcia definitely deserves it. Dude, also, I was wondering if anybody was going to bring him up, and I'll stop here because, again, I could just keep going on this. I was wondering if anybody was going to bring up John Mayer.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but I like Jerry more. I give him an honorable mention. He's really good. His blues trio, the John Mayer trio, was phenomenal.
Because John Mayer might be a better guitarist than I think he is a better guitarist than Jerry Garcia. But I mean, he replicates him when he plays with Dead and Company. So it's hard to say somebody who's replicating someone else is better. But in his solo work too, you talked about covers. I was going to mention it. I forgot. It's not Little Wing. It's Axis Bold as Love, same album. John Mayer's cover of Bold as Love is sick. Highly recommend listening to that. He shreds.
There's also the one live John Mayer album. What's it called? It's like pretty famous. It's Where the Light Is. It's John Mayer live in Los Angeles. It's such a good album. It's like a lot of his like kind of poppy stuff at the beginning, but really good, like still really good. And then it goes into just like all blues, like amazing blues. He's really good there. So yeah, I agree. He's good, really good. If you had to pick a song for Eddie, what would you pick to really highlight his prowess, his skill?
Wow. Fuck me, that's a tough question. So I mean, obviously we're talking about guitar here, but I'm tempted to say Jump because that shows that other dynamic of the synth. And he's got a short guitar solo in it too. I would say that, and I'm trying to pivot to a different album. So if I was looking at like Van Halen 1, Eruption is the easy answer.
I was thinking running Eruption as like one song to go in, like the two of them together is a really good highlight.
Yeah, that's I would say either that or Ain't Talking About Love. But I like the Running with the Devil's iconic for them. It's iconic to a sound. If there's a guitar solo in it, it's pretty short, but toss it in there. I'll edit it if I think there's a better pick. Because obviously there's so many things to choose from. But yeah, we can go with those for now.
Sweet.
This has been a marathon.
Yeah, we're almost 2 hours in.
And we still have one more category.
Yeah.
So with the X Factor Crazy Horse type of thing, I'm really interested. I feel like we're all kind of going to be shouting out someone who means a lot to us musically is probably how they're getting on there. So just when you pick yours, just mention your kind of criteria, like why you pick them.
Sweet.
Sounds good.
How much time do we have on this one? Can we keep going?
9 minutes.
Yeah.
We got 9. I'm down to send another link. But let's see how far we can get.
I'm happy to squeeze in here. Mine's actually super quick if you guys don't mind me leading off.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Sure.
In terms of criteria, I don't know. Yeah, it was a little tough trying to pick between like, duos or like a front man or something like that, because, obviously everyone else falls into one of these categories. But yeah, so I honestly don't have much of a criteria, more so just a personal thing. And I went with, oh, that was weird. I went with Jeff Lynne. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with him, but I just loved ELO all throughout college. He's kind of the front man there. And they're definitely one of my favorite bands. Haven't listened to them in a while. But yeah, front
Got
man.
to see him live in like 2018.
Really?
Philly, it was
Philadelphia?
sweet. Yeah.
Oh
They
man,
just played like all the hits, and then the
that was an
concert ended.
awesome
And it was
show.
everything you wanted.
Yeah. And that's what I was gonna say. For anything for the playlist, I would just point people to their hits. Looking on Spotify right now. Mr. Blue Sky, Don't Bring Me Down, Living Thing, Last Train to London, Sweet Talking Woman. Those are the top 5, and all great songs. I think like
Evil Woman.
Yeah, Evil Woman. I think that's a Jeff song too. The meat of their discography is probably like right in the middle is their Gold, the New World Record, Out of the Blue, and Discovery. It's just like nice, sweet, easy. Liked him a lot in college. One of my favorite bands. And he didn't really fit too nicely into any of these other categories. So
There. I'm surprised you didn't
Cool.
say either Donald Fagen or Walter Becker. Or those are the two Steely Dan guys, right?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't say Donald Fagen either.
Mhm.
I might have had just like a 2-week period where I way overhyped them and then sold them to you guys as like my favorite band of all time.
I don't know if it was 2 weeks. It might have been 2 years.
Yeah. I feel like it's a lot longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they are way up there, but I don't know. Didn't win the X.
All right,
Fair.
cool though.
Who's got it?
I can hit it next. So
Yeah.
this person could very easily fit into the guitarist category in my mind. But it's someone who I look to as someone like pound for pound as a musician, as kind of everything. Just in my mind, totally subjective. But I picked Lindsey Buckingham as just one of the most insanely talented musicians. Once again, kind of criminally underrated. I feel like we brought up at one point, or just the fact that he's like ranked 99 on the top 100 guitarists on like a Rolling Stones list, which is just heresy. It makes no sense. But like singer songwriter, I got to give it to Lindsey Buckingham. Been listening to a lot of Fleetwood Mac and even his solo stuff recently, and he's just very captivating in my mind. Extremely captivating. I look at songs like Big Love.
That's exactly where my mind went.
The live performance off of The Dance is absolutely the one to put on the playlist. Never Going Back Again. Just his finger picking. I really like idolize his finger picking. It's definitely my like preferred style, way to play guitar. And he's just clearly one of the best, especially playing and singing.
Yeah,
With all the complex rhythms that guy comes up with. His voice is also insane. He's got an amazing voice.
also showcased
But like
in Big
Secondhand
Love.
News off of Rumors as well is another. I believe that might be the opener for the album. But
Yeah.
maybe wrong about that, but a strong one. And then I would put one of his solo songs, Trouble. It's kind of very like 80s, but I feel like people mostly know Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac, and his solo career is also kind of under the radar, but still awesome.
It's a great choice. Big Love is
Awesome choice.
probably my favorite song by Fleetwood Mac, I guess, even though it's one person.
Yeah, he wrote that song. That's just him. That record, Tango in the Night, was supposed to like be a solo record for him. He just brought in all the people from Fleetwood Mac. It became a Fleetwood Mac record.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'll go. So for me, as far as criteria, I just kind of thought of this fifth slot as like songwriter / producer. Because we covered all the instrumentation. Well, not all the instrumentation. We covered the big four as far as instrumentation goes, including vocals.
I think I know
And-
who you're gonna say.
I mean, it's yeah, you probably do, but I'll give my runner up first because I think that you wouldn't guess. So my runner up is Gordon Lightfoot
Nice.
I think he's one of the
R.I.P.
he's one of the greatest songwriters I think like ever. And you get that from the fact that a lot of his songs are just him essentially, right? Like he has stuff with a full band, but what captivates you is just him on the guitar. And he writes these crazy melodies, these very like emotional and like tangible chord progressions that like tell a story on their own. And then he has these crazy lyrics and he has a beautiful voice going on top of them. Yeah, I just think he's one of the greatest songwriters of all time. But he's the runner up. The number one is Kevin Parker from Tame Impala.
There it
Which,
is.
yeah, all of you probably could have guessed that. I mean, I think he's one of the most talented musicians like in our lifetime, you know what I mean? Or in our generation of music. Songs I mean, you could listen to any of his songs really, but Sundown Syndrome is one of my favorite songs by him.
Yeah.
And eventually is a completely different style of song, but it kind of shows his breadth because he plays all the instruments, right? So he plays the bass, he plays the guitar, he plays the synth, and does the sound design to make the sounds on the synth. He almost made it as a drummer on my list too, because his primary instrument is the drums, and he has just the most amazing drums, like on so many of his songs, especially his like first three projects that were just like they had these distorted drums that were just huge and ecstatic. And you can hear his inspiration, especially in his drumming, from drummers that we picked, right? Like John Bonham, Double Kick, and stuff like the Flaming Lips, who wasn't mentioned at all today, but also just a super interesting, unique band with crazy drums that probably most people don't listen to. I mean, I went through a phase where I listened to them a lot, but I don't listen to them on a daily basis. But they just have such awesome drum sounds. Like they're just super compressed, super loud, and they just like drive the song. And the fact that Kevin Parker does all of that for all of the instruments and sings and writes the lyrics is just I mean, it's kind of I just think he's the epitome of a songwriter, essentially. He produces a lot of songs now for other famous artists too, besides his solo project Tame Impala. But I just think he's one of the best, especially for our generation. The fact that he can do all these different things so well. But yeah, that's what I got. Kevin Parker.
Yeah, saw that coming.
He's up.
Yep. Pretty easy.
There we go.
Oh, Dan said he can't come back, but he says New Person, Same Old Mistakes, also by Tame Impala, is another
That's a
great
good
song.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I forgot to add that. Forgot to add stuff. I'm like frantically rethinking everything right now. Just like writing notes down.
Shane,
Do you want me to go next?
I can go. I mean, unless you'd like to. So would you say New Person, Same Old Mistakes? Is there any other song you'd want to put on there?
Yeah, I said Sundown Syndrome and Eventually.
Okay, those will be the three.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I got my pick. I can go. I was just like thinking of all my runner-ups for the wild card, but also in general, like I'm surprised we didn't talk any Leonard Skinner the whole time. And I think it kind of similar to the Beatles, where it's not really any specific member. It's just kind of like, I don't know, Leonard Skinner as a whole is kind of Leonard Skinner, and that's what's so great about them. And also runner-ups for vocals that I wanted to mention, or like honorable mentions that deserve credit. Steve Winwood. I think his voice is just amazing. His solo stuff, his stuff with Blind Faith, his stuff with Traffic. Traffic's like one of the greatest bands. And guitar, honorable mention, I want to just give a shout out to Peter Frampton. Frampton Comes Alive, such an awesome album.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's so great. What a vision. And then this one is tough. It's so broad, but some runner-ups I had were Frank Zappa, in terms of like lyricism, craziest lyrics of like any artist, just out in left field, craziest stuff. So weird. It's so fun. And he's also like a phenomenal guitarist. Like his solos on some of his songs are just like, he has another band like the Mothers, which is kind of like his band. And they also, the Mothers of Invention is kind of like another project they did. Where they just make fun of everybody. It's awesome. But this album, Weasels Ripped My Flesh, it's there's a couple songs on there. Like, I'm just trying to think. My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama, great song, unbelievable. And the Orange County Lumber Truck and Weasels Rip My Flesh, they're all just like great songs. You can really hear his guitar, like he's just amazing. And then other runner-ups, I didn't think about it, but Nigel, you saying Gordon Lightfoot, like he's one of my favorite artists. Like he's such an amazing songwriter. His voice is beautiful, and he just passed away very recently, so he's definitely been like top of mind. He's great, and in the same vein as him is like John Denver. Very similar music, just like beautiful and like peaceful, great summer, easy listening music.
Yeah.
And then I was torn between two from the Dead for my actual final pick. One being Branford Marsalis on the sax. Obviously, he does a lot more than just the Dead, but his album of Wake Up to Find Out in Nassau Coliseum, that Eyes of the World is like the song that got me into the Dead. I like remember where I was mowing my lawn, listening to that song. It like came up from like the Live Dead album, or whatever, the live albums collection. And that's the song that got me into the Dead. And the Dead is like taken over like my entire music for like, I don't know. That's all I listen to. So Branford is just, his sax is just unreal. He's so good. And he's like made me want to like get back into sax just like because of like how impressive he is and how much I love listening to it. But my pick, who I'd put on top of him, would be Brent Midland. I just love him so much. Like so my favorite era of the Dead is the Brent era. Like that spring 1990 is, I think, up there is some of the best Dead. So I think it goes 72, 77, and 90. Spring 1990 is like the three best periods of the Dead in my opinion. And Brent is such an integral part of that period of the Dead. He is like the sound, his work on the organ. They had a third really strong vocalist. Like his vocals were just as good as Jerry's or Bobby's. And in some cases, like you hear like Little Red Rooster, and then you hear like him start to sing, and you hear the crowd go wild because his voice is just, it's amazing. It's got so much like raw, just like, I don't know, it's just Brent. And he was just such a quiet person, and he wasn't around for very long, but when he was there, he was just like such a great part of the Dead. And I'm just thinking of like his work on Little Red Rooster, or like Let the Good Times Roll, of like that spring 1990, like that So Glad You Made It album. Or there's a great one, so like the two songs would be Let the Good Times Roll from that spring 1990, and then the what's it called, the Warlocks, what was Hampton Coliseum, October 1989, so right around that same period. But also any Little Red Rooster he does is amazing. But it's on the second night. Just give me a sec. I'll find it later. But I mean, just like his work there in like 89 and 90, just I don't know. Dead's my next to Red Hot Chili Peppers. Dead's my favorite band. and that's my favorite period. And I think Brent defines that period the best. So love Brent.
I love what you said about, or when you brought up the crowd just going wild whenever he
Yeah.
comes. He's definitely like he's loved by the cult.
Oh yeah.
Everything I read online is just like Brent, this verse
Yes.
is great because of Brent.
Yep, exactly. And I love my Brent shirt that I got it's like
That's an awesome shirt. Yeah.
It's like my
Yeah.
favorite Brent shirt. Yeah. So there we go.
Nice.
For
We've got
just real quick for
Yeah.
Gordon Lightfoot, what songs would you
For Gordon
I know one of
Lightfoot,
them.
Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, like,
Yeah.
that's like my family's favorite song. Like when I pull up to my driveway in Canada, I turn that song on and it's the exact length of my driveway. So like I start it and I get to my house and it's that song and I'm just like flying through
Mhm.
the woods in Canada, blasting Gordon, and it's like the greatest. So
Awesome.
definitely Wreck of Edmund Fitzgerald. If You Could Read My Mind,
Yeah, that's what I was also
Sundown
thinking.
is a great song. What else? I'll put some. Yeah, Early Morning Rain I think is probably like some of the best, and there's a lot of great covers of that song as well.
Mhm.
How about you?
Yeah, off the top, I would say Edmund Fitzgerald and If You Could Read My Mind.
Mhm.
Really beautiful songs, and just like I said before, just super like interesting songwriting. Like
Mhm.
not many people write songs like that,
Yeah.
or are capable of writing songs like that. Yeah. But I guess it's all come down to this, Seamus.
Taylor Swift.
All right,
Um,
let's cut it there, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone. Could you imagine if this 2-hour special just ended like that?
Fuck that.
So yeah, this last category is so open-ended. Real quick, I just want to say, like, I've kind of alluded maybe to who I was going to pick, and I've talked about him before, and it's a very personal choice of mine, which is why I emphasize us stating our criteria. And I say that because it's personal and subjective to me. My pick. But if we're talking, if this list was going to be objective, someone that nobody has mentioned yet that would 100% deserve to be on here somewhere is Bob Dylan.
Knew you were gonna say Bob Dylan. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now
Yes.
that's not my pick. I really don't spend a ton of time listening to Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
But again, like in
You wrote
terms
everyone's
of
songs.
exactly in terms of a Mount Rushmore and a prominence in music, how long he's been around, and just from the completeness of an album like Blood on the Tracks to, like you said, all the other singles and songs that he's wrote that have been covered and adapted by all kinds of musicians, like Knocking on Heaven's Door by Guns N' Roses, All Along the Watchtower by Hendrix, and there's a bunch of other ones, and arguably some of these covers are better than the originals, which is part of the reason why I've never latched onto Bob Dylan that much. Like, he's a brilliant lyricist and a brilliant folk artist, as you know, that sort of thing probably wouldn't be as much on my alley. But I feel like he just needed to be shouted out here.
Mhm.
Also, like, maybe Elvis could
Yeah.
be on this crazy horse, if nothing else, for his
Yeah.
influence. And in terms of influence, you could do like a BB King as well.
Yeah.
The only other one I want to mention, and this is partially for his musicianship. So if you looked at this category as like an extra instrument that should be included within this, which would probably always lend itself to piano or keyboard. I like, not everybody agrees with it. Billy Joel could get mentioned. Some people don't like him as much. I can tell Jack might not
You lost me
agree with
there,
that.
but that's okay. I respect your
My
opinion.
my point just being
What about
that
Elton?
he's nah. I knew you were gonna say that. And he might belong on there more than Billy Joel. I'm just saying, like, if we had if this fifth one was being used as an extra instrument, if you're looking at a piano player, you'd probably pick one of those two. I mentioned Joel. I like Billy Joel more than Elton John. But Billy Joel is one of those guys that's got maybe legitimately like 20 plus radio hits. Again, we've said that that doesn't really, the common people's takes on music doesn't really influence us too much, but I think there's something to be said there. I don't know if there's any other major names that we didn't include.
I feel
I
like
feel like we've, yeah,
I want one more. I think maybe like John Fogerty. Like
sure, yeah.
I think he deserves an audition.
Kind of says what you need to know.
Yeah, I think he just sure is a good way to say it, but just like CCR. So I feel like they're kind of these days they're kind of corny, which is sad because like Susie Q is a great song. And there's they've got a lot of good stuff, but I feel like sometimes they're overshadowed by some of the stuff that like Fortunate Son is just like an annoying song, honestly, in my opinion. It's just
the way
not,
that it's used. Yeah.
Wait,
yeah,
no,
just
no,
the
no.
way
You
it's
know what?
used.
You know what we didn't do any of? We didn't know Pink Floyd.
I know Pink Floyd either.
Yes, yeah.
I was thinking about that.
I didn't mean to mention them too.
Bummer.
For as many Pink Floyd t-shirts as I've owned, they're not a band that I listen to a ton, but they deserve credit with all these other bands. There's probably other bands that we're leaving off.
Oh,
Let us
definitely.
know in the comments who we didn't include.
Yeah. What's your Mount Rushmore?
Yeah. Smash that subscribe button. But before we go, my pick is Jerry Cantrell. I've snuck him into a couple podcasts already. Alice in Chains, songwriter, lead guitarist, and co-singer. So again, like I've looked a lot at their overall contribution and overall musical abilities, and I just mentioned like really cool guitar player who just has some really interesting chord progressions. I like his lead work a lot too, but what he does with in terms of songwriting, in terms of just again like certain chord voicings that he's using, and the mood that he generates is it's very grungy, obviously. But it's in for me learning guitar. I'll be honest, like his stuff is not crazy complex to the point that I couldn't jump in and touch any of it. Like Eddie Van Halen is someone that like I haven't really studied too much because it's like, well, even if I got the bare bones of what he's playing, I'm not going to do it justice. With the right tone effects and stuff like that, you could probably cover a lot of what Alice in Chains are going for. But again, like in terms of the grunge era, they're my favorite band, even though I talk about Soundgarden, who are probably my next favorite. No disrespect to Nirvana and Pearl Jam. But the vocal harmonies again are really interesting. So to make my point, if I had to pick two songs to showcase this, I'd maybe go Down in a Hole as one of them, just because there's some cool, like a cool finger picking part. It's pretty simple, but it's a cool arpeggio with some cool overdriven lead guitar part over it, and the power of Lane Staley's voice and the harmony of Jerry Cantrell's. But the main song that I would kind of encourage everybody to listen to understand what I'm saying about just like the uniqueness of their sound would be I Stay Away on the EP Jar Flies. I may have mentioned that one on here before too, but like it's got this like just a lot of cool layering to the strings. So there's an acoustic 12 string playing some really cool chord parts. And then there's an overdriven lead guitar that's doing a lot of heavy riffs. People have called Jerry Cantrell like a riff lord before. Like I said, he's part of that kind of hair metal grunge era that was inspired by Eddie Van Halen. And he directly points Van Halen as one of his inspirations. And behind all of that is like this like symphonic string section. And it's just got this really kind of grungy but like almost beautiful string harmonies behind it. And then again it's got a cool solo, and it's got Jerry Cantrell and Lane Staley doing their harmonies. So I just think really interesting. And in terms of me learning guitar and stuff like that, like I think he's an artist that would be really worthwhile for everyone to learn because of his, just chord progressions, harmonies, and tones, pedal usages, stuff like that. Without being overly complex or convoluted, I just think they do a lot of really cool stuff.
Nice. Love to hear it. Great choices.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited to listen to this playlist. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
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 Dude, we have some awesome stuff on here.
Yeah, I can't believe we went over 2 hours. That's pretty crazy.
That is.
Yeah, just more proof that we're music elites.
Yes,
I mean,
we are.
pretty much geniuses.
Our
Next-
opinion is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
You should just react to the
Um,
list. I'm like zooming out and looking at it now. There's so much interesting stuff going on.
Yeah.
Dude, I
Yeah, I
will
can't
say
wait to
the
listen
only
to it.
thing I don't love is the Keith Richards Mick Taylor. Only because that's the only double that we have on here, and we stayed away from doubles on
Inki.
vocals and stuff like that. But we'll leave it because that's what we discussed. And the Stones deserve more credit than we gave them anyways. So
Yeah, love the
Fair.
Stones.
also we
want-
didn't talk about the Eagles once. Is that wrong of us, or is that
Oh,
does
well.
that check out? Yeah, or does that
No
check out?
Francis would be pissed.
He's definitely smashing the dislike button.
That is crazy. Talk for 2 hours. Was not uttered once.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like other bands we just didn't mention. Like,
Focused on classic rock.
The Ramones, the Beach Boys.
Metallica.
Ramones and the Clash and Metallica. Yep. Yeah.
U2.
Get fucked. Didn't talk about Aerosmith.
No Aerosmith. Wow.
No.
I love Aerosmith. Yeah, Guns N' Roses barely got mentioned.
Sublime. Didn't touch Sublime at all. Huh?
Yeah, I feel like it's a little different. Because I don't know.
I mean, I talked about ska. I feel like we did that whole genre enough justice for this conversation.
Well, at that point, we didn't even talk Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. What are we doing here?
Yeah. You know what? Inky, don't even save it. Just delete it.
Scrap it.
Scrap it.
I mean, yeah, I think we covered our bases, man.
What do you guys think of
stuff though?
What's up? Oh, lost Nigel.
You cutting out.
Oh, so are you.
That's been kind of funny too. I've been looking at your background a lot throughout this recording. just people walking by,
Mine?
terminals.
Yeah. They say
We didn't. What do you guys think of Tom Petty? Do you guys like him?
Oh yeah.
yeah. I don't love it, but I like him.
I think he's I don't think he belongs on a Mount Rushmore, but he's good. I like.
Would have been an interesting X.
Yeah, I like
Nice
his.
guy.
Dude, we didn't talk about Journey.
Weezer.
Don't stop believing.
Dude, people love Weezer. I just really don't like Weezer.
Buffalo, Springfield.
Love's actually a good song.
I
Johnny
like
Cash,
Weezer.
if you would consider that. I like Weezer too.
Yeah. Johnny Cash was one I had on my list of guys in the Bob Dylan type of mentions that I had, like just for his presence and like being the face of that old school country rock. Old school country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we just talked about Weezer. So
yeah.
Do you guys like the Steve Miller Band?
Yeah.
I do. They don't belong in this conversation, I don't think. But I actually no. Them and the Cars are two bands who I actually really, really like. The stuff that I have saved. It's just in terms of like a quantity thing. It's Boston. Boston falls in the category too. I mentioned them because I love them, but they fall in that category too, where it's like really awesome sound. Just like they're on those three bands are all over my classic rock Sunday vinyl playlists, but like I don't think they have the depth.
Yeah.
So the only like we could keep this going forever, but I do want to just say like more attention to Skynyrd real quick. Like I love Lynyrd Skynyrd's guitar work so much, but one of the reasons they get left out of a lot of conversations is because it's like cannibalization. Like they delude themselves because they've always had three guitarists in the band. Ed King, Gary Rossington, I think Alex Collins was another one, and Ed King left and Steve Gaines stepped in. That's four unbelievable guitarists in like 7 years or whatever. But like I said, it's like they
Mhm.
cannibalize each other's spots on a list like this.
Yeah. What do you guys
Yeah,
think
that's
of,
fair.
maybe like in a while, in like a couple months or something, just to give some space. But like, what if we did a another one of these Mount Rushmores, but with like live active artists? Because like
Yeah.
I don't listen, honestly,
Taylor-
what I listen to, it's not a lot of, I don't listen to a lot of classic rock like during the week. I listen to a lot of like people who are producing stuff now. Like there's a lot of great stuff out there. So that's why I'm saying maybe in a few months, like think like just like
Seamus is like, I want no part of this.
yeah.
If it happened past 96,
that's
It's
that's
not
more
for
me.
me.
Dan
That's
would
more
be
me.
interested.
I'd be moderating.
Yeah, you know, I thought you guys were gonna come in my neck too, but actually, yeah, Inky is probably the least
Yeah,
qualified for
literally have
that
nothing.
discussion.
So I was just thinking about
I have
like
something.
I was thinking about Kurt Vile. Kurt Vile is, he's from Philly.
Yeah.
He's I think he's like one of the best musicians out right now, but I just didn't think he belonged on this list. But I think he belongs on a list. And that's kind of what I was thinking. Like My
Mhm.
Morning Jacket right
I mean, I'd
now,
be down.
Billy Strings, John Mayer. Like there's a lot of really good artists out right now. Humphreys McGee.
I can tell you like a modern bassist or modern drummer. It might just have to be a conversation about
Sure.
like if
Yeah.
we could probably do that to decide on a Mount Rushmore of 4 artists.
Yeah, that's true. Or like just talk about like our favorite current, like we could just talk about music that we like right now that's like coming out. Maybe look at a format. I don't know, just something to think about if we wanted to do that at some point.
I
Not
moderate.
a bad idea. The other
Keep
thing
it
I was going to
moderated.
pitch, yeah. The other thing I was going to pitch is doing some kind of conversation about our favorite live shows.
Oh,
Excluding Dead
That's
or including Dead.
I don't know.
exclusively dead.
we all want to sit down for another 3.5 hours again, and
Oh God,
Dude, speaking
I'm
of which,
so hungry. I'm so
I'm so
hungry.
hungry, dude. Oh my God. But yeah, it's coming up in a few weeks. It's too bad Dan won't be here, and part of the I don't know if we want to really, it might be hard to phone him in, and he also doesn't know Cornell necessarily if he wants us. I don't know what his thoughts are on that episode, but the live episode of us, Cornell on my rooftop, is going to be fucking awesome. So
Yeah,
I'll bring my
that's gotta happen.
camera.
cool.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I've got a GoPro
Um,
too. If you want like multiple angles or something. I don't know. That's pretty intense and
Yeah,
complex, but
could be fun.
I have equipment that I could bring too. We can talk about that. Dan, we could get notes from Dan if we don't call him in. I'd like for him to be involved and have a say in it somehow.
yeah, same.
But good shit today.
Yeah. Oof. I gotta get up
Ooh.
out of this chair. I'm gonna be sitting in this chair for 8 hours tomorrow. I gotta move.
My
I need
leg
to
is
find
gonna
something
like
to eat.
I don't think I can bend my leg because I was at the soccer field earlier today and like it's the worst possible cool down. I'm just sitting still.
Yeah.
But good shit. This is gonna be there's gonna be so much I can post about this too. So
Yeah.
this is
Great.
awesome. I'm gonna make more of a push on social media stuff. So I'll work on that this week.
Awesome.
Wait.
thanks for listening.
Good talk, guys.
Yeah,
All
Yeah.
right.
Fun Sunday.
We'll see.
next
We'll
week.
see you next week
Exactly.
with some album.
Oh yeah, shit. Gotta think of something. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No, we had to figure it out. All right. See you guys.
See you, everyone.